We're sort of going to wing it here a little bit because I did this on a bit of a tight schedule. For those who may have been following it, okay, basically the way I do things is somebody says, well, what do you want to talk about? And I tell you what I'm going to talk about, and then about a week later I say, now how the hell am I going to do that? Right, so I... What?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay, so yes, how the hell am I going to do that? So I started putting the hardware together sort of like late last week. I actually had in stock sitting there a little Arduino shield called the Ardumoto, which controls motors. And I had it sitting there and I've been afraid of it, you know, because I keep thinking I'm going to blow something up. So, yeah, I said, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and we'll see if it blows up. You know how blue smoke comes out, that stuff, right? Anyway, so that's what happened. Last week I got the hardware working. I was hacking the software basically late at night in a coffee shop in JB over a few days, and it seemed to work, so that's cool. And then I basically very tight, because like this week I had to do a whole load of travelling. I got my bike and I rode up to Segamat, and I left my bike and I came back by bus, and I went up by car and I got my bike, and I got back this morning at 2:30 this morning. Anyway, enough about the fun. Right, hardware is not boring. Who would agree with that? You see, basically, I got bored with computers back in about 1986. Not with programming them, but with the hardware, because they started all becoming the same. I mean, okay, recently we've had iPads and things like that, but but the last really exciting thing before that, after the Amiga, I saw was like a CPM machine from NEC that played music. So, here we go. Let's see what we got. Okay, what are we going to do? We are going to try to use an iOS device. I'll use the emulator for the iOS device because I didn't have an internet. I programmed the apps on the road. I finished the Android one on a coach. I can't remember where I finished the iPhone one. I think it was somewhere, some stupid, about 4 o'clock in the morning somewhere. I didn't have an internet connection, so I couldn't get provisioning and stuff for the iOS one. And we will pray that it works. If it doesn't work, I'll show it through a browser to control it, right? So we're going to use something to control cars. Right? There are cars down here. And why are we going to do this? Come on, why do hackers do anything? Because we can. Right? What was I doing just down there? I was using a 3D accelerometer with a Leonardo to emulate a mouse. I just thought, why don't we try it? I've carried it around for ages. Let's try it while Sub's giving his talk. I'll show you that if we've got time. Because it's fun, right? Also, this little guy, Sulaiman, it's a wonderful little guy. I want that. Yeah, so you can think his dad's cool because he loves cars. What he's holding in his hand is, who knows what the car is? No, you're all too old. 2 nights ago, again about 5 o'clock in the morning, I had a whole load of Malay kids around me, and I mentioned the name of the car. They said, oh yeah, we know that one. It's the fastest it's the Bugatti Veyron. It's the fastest production car in the world, right? He loves cars. And also, so this little lady will think her guy is cool because she likes it making stuff like this. She's the one I took up to Segamat. Okay, right. And so that you start thinking that this stuff is cool, I'd like to play with this. It's not all about software, right? And we don't have much time, so let's get moving. Right, so what do we get? What's the hardware? We've got a router, which is sitting on the floor here. We have got an Ethernet shield, a motor shield, an Arduino, and we've got racing cars. And in case anybody is like my little boy Sulaiman, and has ASD. We also have Thomas the Tank Engine if we have time. If anybody likes Thomas the Tank Engine, we can try it. Right? Okay, what is the Arduino? It is an open source hardware platform, blah, blah, blah. What does that mean? You can build your own Arduinos, you can copy Arduinos, you can buy them from anywhere. They're easy to use, they're cheap. The cheapest, basically, you buy an Arduino in Singapore, it costs you about $35. The development environment is free, it's incredibly easy to set up unless you're using Linux. We have problems with Linux users, but some of them got it working too. Right? On the Mac, on the PC, it just works like a dream. Right. And basically, when we give classes on Arduino at Hackerspace, we find that halfway through the classes, half the people stop listening to us and do their own projects. Because they say, hey, why do we attend this? This is easy, and they go off and do it themselves. Right? And other people just keep on coming along and do it for the advanced classes and so on, but people do stuff with it. Okay, we are going to be using a motor shield, the thing that basically had me scared. What this is, it is using an H-bridge, right? What is an H-bridge? Basically, an H-bridge is a device with 4 electrical switches. Now, how am I going to do this? I should have one of these super duper Star Wars pointers. I haven't. I should use my finger. Right, we have an H-bridge. Damage the card. You put a voltage into it, we have got 4 switches. If you turn on this switch and that switch, the motor goes one way. If you turn on this switch and that switch, the motor goes the other way. If you turn them all on, you blow the thing up. But it's designed so you can't blow it up. Right? We use something called pulse width modulation. Who knows what pulse width modulation is? Come on, everybody who attended the Arduino class must know what this is. Basically, the motor, the speed of the motor depends upon the average amount of power, because the motor will average out any inconsistencies because it's an inductive circuit. So, the average of this, where it's 50% on, 50% off, is obviously 50% of the full voltage. Whereas if it's 20% on, then the average is 20% of the full voltage. So it will move faster there than it does there. The Arduino makes pulse width modulation incredibly simple. Right. Okay, now I had a problem with this, because what I intended to do was to stack a motor shield on top of an Ethernet shield and stick that on top of an Arduino. The problem was that the motor shield and the Ethernet shield use the same pins. Right, so I try to talk to Ethernet shield, it'll start messing with the motor shield, and vice versa. And I spent, this is why the code took so long, because I spent most of last week thinking, well, in which case I need to have 2 Arduinos. One sorts the Ethernet shield, it sends the commands over a serial link to the other Arduino, which controls the motor shield, which is why I've got a box there with 2 Arduinos in it, until suddenly I had this blinding flash of light which said, Appleton, you're an idiot. And why don't you just use different pins for the motor shield, which we did, right? Very simply, all I did was I took the lock. Oh, by the way, this is how Arduinos work, right? That's your Arduino, that's the Ethernet shield, that's the motor shield, they just stack up. Long pins go into the socket so you can stack one on top of another. And all I did on the motor shield was bent these pins again outside so they don't mate with that. And I put wires across from here to there. Golly, wasn't that simple? Yes, Appleton, you're an idiot. Why didn't you think of that before? And why did I bend it instead of cutting it so I can use it for something else afterwards? Right. Now, tough technical stuff, programming. Are you ready now for about 5,000 lines of code to get this thing working? Yeah? Okay, programming the motor. Well, the first 4 lines, well, they're constants, right? We know that. It's very, very simple. Basically, the motor shield, I showed you the H-bridge, right? Since racing cars tend to go in one direction, let's go back to it. There. Since racing cars tend to go in one direction, We're going to sort of like leave this one on and then turn this one on, off. Right? And these two are going to stay open all the time. It's only going to go in one direction. Right? So, basically, the motor shield has got two channels. Each one has got a direction and a control, on or off. So we've got four variables: pulse width modulation A and B, direction A and B. The direction pins you have to set as output so that you can write them high or low to go forwards and backwards. And you control the speed very simply by doing a function called analog write, which doesn't really write any analog at all. It just sends pulse width modulated signals to, in this case, 3. Whatever number you've got there. The number's got to be between 0 and 255. We've done it. We've controlled. I tested it out. And somewhere I actually had a program that would test that. If we can find it, there you go. That was me testing it. Saves me testing it now, right? Basically, I had a program to make it go forwards, backwards, change speeds. It was going slowly, fast. Lovely. I wonder what the noise was. Okay. So, it is incredibly simple to control motors. And I didn't blow up the motor shield. Come on, round of applause. Thank you, that was totally unexpected. I'm really touched. Thank you. Right. Okay, now, the tricky bit, the phone connection. We want to connect a phone to a piece of hardware. And in order for us to do that, we're using the internet, we need a protocol. Right? And there are loads of protocols. We'll have a look at 3 of them: HTTP, Telnet, and custom protocols. I've done all of them. I've demonstrated them at the iOS dev group a few weeks ago. Right, HTTP, what you use in web browsers. Number one, it's very easy. It's a one-way protocol. Right? All of this session stuff that you see on HTTP is really just black magic, but it's done with a one-way protocol. Right? So there's no real session support. Session support is basically done in the background with scotch tape and glue and sealing wax and stuff, right? Telnet is establishing a conversation for typing the commands, and you can have a conversation, right? The old terminals, that's Telnet, right? You can have custom protocols where you define packet sizes and you send packets and things like that. And I'm sure things like YouTube and stuff are using custom protocols, right? Custom protocols are very hard. Telnet is beautifully easy to test, but the programming is a bit complicated. HTTP is very easy. When we're controlling racing cars, we're telling it what speed we want. We don't want it to say, hello, how are you? Or at least not to carry on a long conversation, right? Racing cars are not good at conversations. Right, okay, so we're going to do HTTP. We've got 2 cars, we need 2 controllers. The Ethernet controller cannot support multiple sessions, right? I mean, come on, it's running on 8-bit CPU, give it a break, right? So it can't. So what we're going to do is each one goes in there, it makes an HTTP request and says, you know, set the speed of this car to so-and-so, end of story. So HTTP is a good contender, and we can test it with a web browser. Hopefully. I have not tested the cars yet, right? I just set them up. Let's hope it's going to work. If not, situation normal. I'm sure this gentleman can continue the statement we went forward. Right. Okay. Ethernet is equally, unfortunately, after this, nobody's going to come along to the Ethernet session, are they? Yes, they are. We're going to go out of protocols. Ethernet is actually incredibly simple as well. We've got a controller chip on that uses SPI, so we need to include the library. We need to include the Ethernet library. We give the Ethernet controller a MAC address, We tell it it's listening on port 80, and we start it. Okay. We have a loop which checks for the connection. We say, anybody there? And if nobody's connecting, it says no, and nothing happens. But if there is someone there, while they're connecting, we just receive characters and we process them, and at the end of it, maybe we say thank you very much. Right? So it's going to be something like, read the characters, or print back the word hello, or something like that. It is, again, it's disgustingly simple. Now, we need to handle the HTTP protocol, because when your browser goes in and says, give me a web page, basically you send all sorts of stuff to it. You send a request, you're asking for a page called speed HTML $A = 0. You get the first line, followed by the second line, followed by all of these lines, and then you get a blank line at the end. Right? This is typically all of the stuff that you are sending. So you can tell, it looks like I was using Firefox on the Mac, probably. Well, certainly on the Mac. And you can tell I'm running Snow Leopard, not mine. There we go. Right? Now, the Arduino is going to have to look through all that and find the important bit. But we know the important bit is going to be the speed.html $A = 0. And it's in the very first line. So, shouldn't be difficult. Yeah, okay. Basically, here I'll just read the lines. If it's not a new line, we build up the line. So, right, you add the characters to an existing line. Just keep on adding the characters, keep reading the characters one by one. When you've got a new line, go and process it. Set the line back to nothing. And this is not the ultimate in parsing code, right? I mean, I don't think this is quite sort of like break with some of my language interpreters I've done, but it works for this. Basically, if you just look for speed.html $A = or B =, then you can just extract the number and do an A to I on it, so you've got the speed. That's simple, yeah? I hope you guys are alright with me throwing loads of code, that's what I always do. So there we are, we've got the speed. And once we've got the speed, very simple. Analog write, PWMA speed A. Or if it was B, you do it to B. I'm now reaching very soon that point which I cannot get out of, aren't I? I'm trying to test it to see when it bloody all works. Oh no. Sorry, yes. Once we've got it all, we have to send a reply. And so we're just going to send something like that. A bit of HTML. Before the HTML, you want the request was received OK. First line, right? The header, then 2 blank lines. The rest is HTML. You guys all know HTML, right? And we insert the variables where we want the variables. For some reason, I thought it'd be really clever to put the IP address to tell you, okay, I'm at this IP address in the return from the web request. And after I finished the notes, I thought, that's really stupid, isn't it? Because if you don't know the IP address, you can't contact it anyway. Bang. So I put a serial print line in there also so I can check it with the serial port, but that's down there. I'm up here, so we're going to pray. Okay. Hook it all up. There we go. You've got the motor shield. 2 sets of output, 1 to each track. You've got the Ethernet shield which goes to the wired router, which is down here. You've got 12 volts going into the Arduino. There is no connection to the Mac at all, so I can't be doing fiddly things up here. Yes. Knock up a quick app. Okay. Basically, I knocked up a couple of quick apps, totally untested. Right? If we are very, very lucky, they might work. But we'll test it with a browser request first for safety, right? So value, basically we're just going to send speed.html with the value change of that from the apps. And if it works, I'm going to be very, very happy. And if it doesn't work, I'm going to change the subject and show you how to use a Leonardo and an accelerometer as a mouse, okay? Because that worked, I tested it over there a few minutes ago. How am I doing for time?
You're 20 minutes in.
Huh?
You're 20 minutes in.
Really?
Yes.
You mean I've got another 25 minutes? I'm going to show you the accelerometer anyway. It'll be fun. Well, maybe I'll just tell you about the bike ride instead. That was fun as well. Okay, insert post. Yeah. Okay, here goes. We've got to try. We have to try. Nothing's happened. That may or may not be a good sign. If I have to reload the code, it's a bad sign. I'm going to have to move close to it. Let's get my Facebook out of there quickly. I don't know what the IP address is. I don't know what the IP address is. Well, give me a moment. Somewhere here it will tell me what's going on. I cannot remember. Man status? It's okay, you don't need to see my screen. I'm sorry, I'm just hacking into the router. I'm glad you can't see the screen actually. Okay, because it's 100, 101. Hello. We'll try. We will try.
See what attached devices are in the router, and you can see what's attached.
I did, yeah. What we got? WizNet. Oh, it's WizNet. It's 107. Cool. Yes. Yes. Okay. There we go. How about that? Okay, so we're now connected to it, and miraculously it seems to work. See, it says server is at. Yeah, I wish I'd known that before I started. It would have been a lot easier, but never mind. Okay, what's going to happen if I put all right. Come on! Come on! That is awful, isn't it?
Try the other car.
The other car is worse, actually. The white car. The problem with this is Scalextric's Mini. Scalextric's Mini is sort of like entry level for kids. It's got magnets to hold them onto the track. The problem is that also slows it down. But let's try. We'll try and get. We'll see if we can get
2,000.
Up to 1,000.
moving. Do I not press enter?
It's still loading.
What? It can't still be loading. Come on. It's got A equals 200. Yes. No, so, come on. Look, you show them you know how to work. Go on.
I hate you!
It's sort of.
Yeah. Try your best.
Hey guys, we did see the video, didn't we? Where it was going whoosh, 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 right?
Yeah.
Somebody, it was a lousy video, but
Okay. Cheer. 1, 2, 3.
Okay. This is one of those I hate this moment. Why do I not have access to the router anymore? We will try one more time, shall we? B equals
255.
Yeah.
Yes. The maximum.
it's sending a request and nothing is happening. Is it?
I think the internet stack supports ping.
Try again.
Yeah, try again.
If all else fails, press the reset button, right? You'll probably then find it's going to change its IP address. Okay. Let's refresh this page, see what's happening. Aha. Everybody's on there. Well, it's certainly still on there. Yeah, we're still there. Anybody got any guesses?
Oh no. When in doubt, reset. That'd be a guess.
Okay, let's just know one more time. Question mark A equals 255. I am baffled. Okay, I'm baffled on this one. If I have this, it will be hard showing you how it works, will it? Won't it? We'll try. Let's just. Okay, guys, I'm going to try and sit down here and talk to you and see what we can have on the debugging screen. If we're lucky, the debugging screen might tell us something. I'll drag it across when I found it. And this is a board. That was the serial port that I was trying to avoid showing you. So if that has happened, now let's try going back
Oh.
There you go. We got A at 255. Let's see if we can put B on 255 as well.
You need to put the car in.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Do it this week.
Let's try one last time. Here we go.
Selfie today.
Ah,
You crazy.
chopping. It's chopping for some stupid reason.
Why don't we take a break and look at the mouse?
Okay, guys. I do apologise. There is another motor shield which is provided by the guys who provide the Arduino, which actually has a separate power supply. It may be the problem that I'm having some interference here with the power supply, which I didn't have at home. So I quite agree. I will take the other alternative because, as I said, hardware is fun. We do things because we can, right? And, okay, Arduino just launched. Sorry, I'm walking across it. No, he's following me. Do you ever get that feeling? I had it when I was in college, but I won't tell you why. Okay, they launched a new Arduino called the Leonardo. And the Leonardo is ultra cool for one particular reason. It can emulate a mouse and a keyboard. Right, it's very simply, it's got two commands, mouse and keyboard. So I was thinking to myself, wouldn't it have been really cool if I had come here and if I just wanted to show you something, I could say, look at that, and I put an accelerometer onto my arm, so I just point, and it follows. But I didn't have time for that, because I was sitting over there, fixing something, and then I thought, okay, I've got a few more minutes. But I will show you what we've done. We've lost the microphone. That's probably a good thing. So, no notes, nothing. I think we finished the notes. I hope we finished the notes. Pull this out of the way. This is really quite complicated when you don't know what you're doing. Take that. That out of the way. Let's just check. I finished my notes. Close that. Yeah, no, that was the last. Okay, good. That was the end of that. Right. So what I did was I took a 3D accelerometer. Right? Now, about 2 years ago, most people in this room would turn around and say, what the hell is a 3D accelerometer? Right? 2 years later, everybody is an expert in 3D accelerometers, and most of you have one or two or more in your pocket, yes? Right? In your iPhone, right? You're controlling games or all these amazing things. And in true style, about 5 years ago, one of my suppliers turned around and said, hey, we've got these 3D accelerometers. Do you want to try one? And I said, yeah, how much is it? And they said, $70 US. And I said, yeah, let's go for it. So, very expensive 3D accelerometer. It probably costs about $2 these days, or less, right? It's mounted on a little board and you can wiggle it about. Nice. And we have the Leonardo. And well, let's see if we can do something really stupid here. I'm into doing stupid things. Photo booth. We'll try and keep a plain picture, right? And move it somewhere like over there. Unless I get some strange requests, I'm going to keep this as a normal picture. None of this crazy sort of like visual effects. But stand still. 1 3D accelerometer. And microphone. Just a 3D accelerometer somewhere on there. Pocket. Works wonders, right? Can you see the chip?
Yeah.
That's down there. There's the chip. It's mainly board. Right. And so sitting over there, I had a choice. Either I half paid attention to the talk, but I also thought, let's do this. So I just wired the 3D accelerometer with 5 wires. Right? Power, ground, X, Y, and Z. And now, tricky thing is going to happen. I'm going to plug it in. Maybe I should show you the sketch before we start. 1, 2, there you go, Leo mouse, it's called. Because once I plug it in, I am not going to be able to show you much. Because it's not a very refined sketch at the moment. Right? It doesn't do anything I really want it to do. I just have constants for the 3 channels. I learned the minimum and maximum. I can't remember. I haven't quite figured out why I want it yet. Right? And a count gets me out of trouble at the end of it, hopefully. And basically, I call mouse.begin, saying use a count, use the mouse, and set a count to 0 to get me out of trouble at the end of it, because I will get into trouble. Then inside the loop, we read the 3 channels. We work out the min and max of the x, y, and z. I'm not using the max yet, you can actually ignore that. And 500 times, if I don't do the 500 times bit, what's going to happen is it's going to continue acting as a mouse and messing me up. Okay? For 500 times, it is going to move the mouse to xv minus min x, so I can do a little bit of calibration, and the same on the y. See what happens. It has to plug in. He's in. Ooh. Is it doing anything? No, it's not. Very embarrassing. Okay. The reason it's not doing that is that it's now set to the wrong serial port. So we changed the board. I think it is. Try and upload it. If it works, it works. It's done uploading. Ah, it's working. You can see the mouse is wandering up. Ooh. Come back. Yeah. Where's the mouse going? There it is. Very hard to use it at the moment because it's sort of like. Hey, this is one of. There's a technical word for this. Yeah, it's gone into the corner. You can see that. I don't know how I did it. It's a work in progress, right? Oh, it's going across the bottom of this screen now. Very nice of it. Needs a bit of work, right? But it wasn't bad for something that took all of 10 minutes to set up in that corner while Swoop was giving his talk. I think that's about it. Any questions? Any questions? We do run these classes at Hackerspace. If anybody's interested in learning about messing around with Arduinos, we do all sorts of crazy stuff with them. Let me see, what have we done so far? We did introduction, we've done controlling servo motors, interrupts, timers, we've done LCDs, keypads, the Ethernet modules coming up, and we'll be doing some more introductories. Any questions? No questions. How am I doing for time?
You've got 10 minutes, 5 minutes more.
5 minutes more?
8 minutes more.
Talk amongst yourself, I'll see if I can get the train run.